It seems like we've been waiting an age for the OnePlus 8 series, but it is getting closer and closer. And now we have our best look yet at some leaked specs of the devices, and it is good news, especially in the camera department. We have known about the OnePlus 8 series for a very long time in terms of the design and also the screen. That was thanks to OnePlus themselves. We also know OnePlus used the best flagship internals in their phones, but these specific details show us the best look yet at exactly what we're getting. Some information from China yesterday suggested the OnePlus 8 Pro could be using an ultra-wide camera known as the Sony IMX586. That was used as the main camera in the OnePlus 7 phones last year, and that rumor suggested OnePlus was moving it to the ultra-wide. That's important because that is exactly what Oppo did in the Find X2 Pro, meaning that OnePlus could be using a similar camera setup to that phone. But before we get to the OnePlus 8 Pro specs, let's have a look at the OnePlus 8, the slightly cheaper version, and the version that a lot of people might be looking at. Thanks to Ishan Agarwal on Twitter, and this guy is usually very accurate with these types of leaks. According to him, the OnePlus 8 will be using a 6.55-inch screen with a Full HD Plus resolution. That means essentially Full HD resolution. Full HD Plus because the aspect ratio should be 20:9. It shows a 90Hz AMOLED on this screen, so no 120Hz according to these leaked specs on this phone. That will be reserved for the more expensive OnePlus 8 Pro. I was hoping that maybe the 120Hz could filter its way down to the non-Pro version, but I guess that is still a very expensive bit of hardware and saved for the Pro version. Another interesting omission here, if true, is the inclusion of LPDDR4X RAM. That is actually not the latest and greatest hardware. LPDDR5 is now making its way into phones. Not that there is a huge difference between them, I don't think, in real daily usage. I've said this for many other brands as well that have used it, but it is important to know if that is important to you. It seems like there is a triple camera setup on the OnePlus 8, a 48 megapixel main sensor, a 16 megapixel ultra wide, and no zoom camera on this phone, just a 2 megapixel depth sensor. A 2x telephoto isn't entirely necessary anyway, and we don't know what image sensor is being used under that main camera lens, but I would suggest it has to be an upgraded version of what they used last year. They can't use the same hardware going into a new series of phones, but we'll have to wait and see. It seems like a very solid setup, but not going to rock the smartphone world. How about that OnePlus 8 Pro? We see the inclusion of LPDDR5 RAM and UFS 3.0 storage. Again, UFS 3.1 storage is now making its way into phones, but according to these specs, OnePlus have gone for the previous generation with UFS 3.0, but again, maybe not a big difference in the real world. A very good size battery on this phone at 4,500 milliamp hours, 30 watt fast charging, but importantly, 30 watt wireless charging to a very good spec. Also importantly, an IP68 rating, which OnePlus fans have been asking for a while now. It's got it on this phone. The main questions we still had about this series were with the camera on the OnePlus 8 Pro. What were they going to do with this hardware? Two 48 megapixel sensors on this phone sounds really good. And if we look at the Oppo Find X2 Pro, we'll know exactly what OnePlus are doing. So the main camera that they were using last year, the IMX586, has been moved over to the ultra-wide camera, just like on the Oppo phone. Then under the main lens, that new 48 megapixel sensor should be the same one that Oppo have used in the Find X2 Pro. This is a brand new sensor from Sony. It is very big. It has very good autofocus. It is a custom built sensor for now, used by the BBK family. It's a good sensor. It's an expensive sensor. It is not a cookie cutter type of hardware that we find in some other phones. The 8 megapixel zoom camera and a 5 megapixel will be a macro or a depth sensor. OnePlus could have used the IMX686 camera sensor from Sony, but that will be going into cheaper phones, and I'm very glad that they've used this more expensive camera sensor in this phone. OnePlus is now a flagship brand, especially the Pro model, and it deserves a flagship grade custom built camera sensor. No information in this leak on the possible OnePlus 8 Lite, so that may have been pushed back a little while as per the rumors. Also in the news is something called Oneplus Pay, which OnePlus are trialing here in China on their Chinese software Hydrogen OS. It is a payment system in the same vein as Apple Pay and Google Pay, Samsung Pay. This could be coming outside of China in time to come. We'll have to wait and see. And also OnePlus are testing a new forced dark mode, which would turn apps that don't have a dark mode into a dark theme. And you can choose whether or not it looks good and turn it on or off on an app by app basis. Subscribe for all the latest tech news and videos. That's it for now, but I'll see you in the next one.